listen to me, baby. You just can't win. Places you trying to go, I've already been.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast. You know what day it is. Inner Wealth Podcast with David Liz. So manifest the greater this. And things all good cause I say it is. Invest in your inner wealth. Real generational wealth is mental health. It's an inside game, no toxicity. Let's talk and more listening. Ladies and gentlemen, and now introducing David McCullough, Elizabeth Holstra, host of the Inner Wealth Podcast.
La la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
Welcome to the first episode of Inner Wealth, the Inner Wealth Podcast. My name is David McCullough. I'm the founder and CEO of Inception. This is Inception Inner Wealth, and this is my lovely co-host.
My name is Elizabeth, and I'm the president of Experience at Inception. And this is the Inner Wealth Podcast. What up, doe?
What up, doe?
What's good?
So what actually is the Inner Wealth Podcast?
Man, inner wealth is different than outer wealth, don't you think? Very, very different.
Well,
they both coincide though.
Yeah, and we on the EYL network, Earn Your Leisure, and Earn Your Leisure is the number one podcast, financial podcast.
Yes.
So they're talking about external wealth. So we're bringing the difference in terms of the inner wealth, right?
Yep.
So talking about inner wealth, I had to talk about it from really just my experience and how I really got to where I am in developing Inception, but not just developing Inception, but developing myself.
Right.
Because really I am Inception. You are Inception.
Right. We are Inception.
We developed ourselves, but what does that even mean?
It's a whole lifestyle. I mean, the inner wealth is everything, mind, body, spirit connection, really.
Yeah, and I went down that pathway myself just from, I didn't get started because I had anxiety or panic attacks or depression, but that's when I really started to dive deep into, trying to figure out what was wrong with me, what was wrong with me, why I was experiencing those things, because growing up, you hear about those terms and you just think you're crazy or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But, I know I wasn't crazy. I knew I grew up in a great neighborhood. I always tell you my childhood was like amazing.
Right.
So if my childhood was amazing, then why do I have anxiety, depression, insomnia,
right,
and all these different issues by the time I'm 27? So I went down this whole rabbit hole trying to figure that out. In 2007 is when I started kind of utilizing some hard hitting tools, heavier tools, but from that point in time, I was just into like self-help, self-development.
Well, didn't you get started when you were like a teenager? Because you started reading Wayne Dyer and Anthony Robbins and.
No, that wasn't in my teenage years. I was around 21 when I started that. But before that time, I was heavily in the church. The church world. And so that's how I really kind of got started. I read a lot of the Bible, and to be honest with you, and if you go read in the Bible, there's a lot of stuff in there in terms of mental health. We just don't think of it in that way.
Right.
But it definitely tells you to think on good things. It talks about your thought life. It talks about your mental life.
Go within, right?
It tells you, Jesus told the people the kingdom of heaven is inward, right? And really any of your therapists, that's what they're trying to help you do, is to go inward, to see your own stuff.
Right.
So that's how I got started. But when I'm 20, I think I'm about 23, 24, I moved down to South Florida. First of all, I was living here. Here is Southfield, but I was born and raised in Detroit, and I moved down to South Florida, and around, I'm going to say 23, 24, I started like throwing up, like just out of the blue. I remember I was at a restaurant. That was my boy Hakeem. We was at Pizza Hut, man. And I just threw up at the restaurant. And I was like, when you throw up, you instantly think what?
You're sick. Something's wrong with you. What's wrong with you?
You think sick. You think something's wrong with your stomach. I need some Pepto-Bismol or something. And that's all I thought I needed. But Nah, man, I needed more than that, but I didn't know that at that time.
Right.
So I'm I went to the doctor. They did all these tests for a intestinal test. And I remember when they did the test, they had me drinking this chalky stuff. They have you sitting on this table, and they doing like this X-ray of you drinking this chalky stuff to see how the fluids go down into your stomach.
Right.
And so I did that. But you know what? I actually never went back and got the test results.
Really?
They gave me some Prevacid and Regulin, and I took that because in my mindset, like I'm taking Prevacid, Regulin, and I take it and I feel better because in my mindset, I'm still thinking in terms of
Western medicine. Western medicine. Right. Yep.
No, medicine. Like when you're younger, you think of the word medicine like, oh, medicine heals you.
Right.
But the truth is, nothing ever healed you but your own immune system.
Right. Exactly.
So it wasn't, but again, in my mind, medicine, when I got better, I was like, oh, I don't need to go back. And I never did go back. I felt better after that. But then some years later, here it comes again.
Wow. Same
issues. I take the Prevacid and Regular again. This time, maybe I just need to take it again. I throw the medication up. I was like, man, something's worse than before. And so I just kept, I kept it moving. I didn't go back to the doctor. I think I ended up at the hospital one time, Pembroke Pines Hospital. They did their test. They did their blood work. Oh, everything checks out fine. And I'm like, okay, then what the heck then? I'm not feeling fine for sure. Right. So I let that go on for even more time to the point where, the panic attacks got so bad where I became kind of reclusive. Like,
and that was different for you, right? Because you had grown up and you were in the church and you were acting and joking and real outgoing. So that was different for you.
That's a drastic shift to how I was. I get on stage. We act in front of 10,000 people easily. Yeah. And so to experience that and to become reclusive, I mean, when you talk about depression, people always think about depression as some chemical imbalance, but situational. My situation had changed. I couldn't do the things that I was used to doing. So when that happened, man, I remember I called my mom. I was like, I waved the white flag. That's what I said. I'm waving the white flag. And I was like, I need to move home. I need to come back home. Because I thought that maybe just moving back home was going to
fix you.
Fix me. I thought, I just need to be around family. Maybe I miss my family or something like that. Moved back home, and my parents was going through a divorce, first of all. So when I moved back, I decided, to move back in with my dad because my mom had moved out. And so I did that, and that's where I really started the journey of kind of like diving deeper into, and I want to say I was already kind of learning neuroscience, quantum physics, neuroplasticity. Yeah. So I had already knew those things because I was heavily into self-help. So after the church world, I was diving deeper into the Anthony Robbins. Yeah. My dad had these tapes. That's I feel old when I'm talking about tapes.
Cassette tapes.
I still have those cassette tapes too. And he had like all those cassette tapes. I called him. I said, that's when I was still living there. I was 21. I said, man, can you just mail me the tapes? He mailed them to me, and I just devoured those things. And in listening to him, it just gave me a paradigm shift of what was possible. And what I thought. You think that back then, personally, I thought that everything was separate.
What do you mean by that?
I didn't know that my thought life affected my body.
Right.
I didn't know that my emotions affected my body.
Right.
I just thought, and when I say that now, I'm like, how ridiculous is that, right? Why would I ever think that?
Right.
But I mean, did you have that understanding when you were young?
I had that. I had zero understanding of that when I was young. They don't teach you that. That's they partially condition you out of thinking that.
Well, who was they?
I mean, who
was they? First of all,
oh man,
but that's a rabbit hole.
Yep.
But yeah, like so you thought Newtonian, just like I did, because that's how we were conditioned. Yep. I didn't understand. So my mom she came down. Her and my dad came down, and this is kind of jumping around, but this was in 2001 when I was down there. When I started having, it was just before I started having any type of anxiety. My mom saw me and she was like, "You look stressed," and I was like, "Stressed?" I was like, "Man, you see these palm trees? You see this weather? I'm not stressed." I had zero idea of what stress was. Zero idea, zero understanding. I just know I heard the word before. So you fast forward some months later, I get those Anthony Robbins CDs or tapes, and Anthony's breaking it down in a different way. And then, I started getting into Deepak Chopra.
Oh, yeah.
Wayne Dyer. They really started to break it down. And someone who comes from the church world like I did, like, you kind of conditioned that stuff is of the devil. Yeah.
Really? They really teach you.
Yeah.
I mean, what specifically?
When you think about, so even if we use the word energy.
Yeah.
Trigger warning. So let's talk about trigger warning, because we're going to have that all throughout our podcast. Trigger warning is just when you hear certain words that triggers you, that makes you go down into this pattern of you need to be offended about something. So in the church world, yoga, Tai Chi, energy, chakras, like, you're conditioned to believe that all that stuff is of the devil.
Of the devil, really?
Not all churches, but in a lot of them, yeah. That Bruce Lee, he was channeling demons. That's that's when you start to kind of think about those things. Like, it's never like understanding your own power. It's always, the devil is giving you some power that you don't have.
Right.
And that's a really flawed thought process, and that conditioned me.
That takes
so I had to
away from you.
Yeah, it takes your own power, your own personal power.
Right.
And it's funny that Anthony Robbins' tapes was called Personal Power. Right?
I love me some Anthony Robbins.
So I'm listening to him, and I'm going down this rabbit hole. And I remember I went to my bishop one time, and because I had looked up some studies on the power of placebo and belief.
Yeah.
People understand placebo. Placebo is Latin for I shall please. Nocebo is the opposite. I shall harm. So I understood placebo. And again, all this I'm starting to really venture out and understand from Anthony Robbins. I start understanding neuroplasticity. So by the time I moved back home, I had all of that foundational stuff. I was using binaural beats when I was 24. There was no YouTube at that time. Well, there was no YouTube. You definitely weren't gonna pull up any binaural beats.
Right.
I had CDs from Holosync. But first I started off with Jose Silva's Ultra Mind system. And that system was talking about the alpha wave system. So I'm 23, 24, and I'm learning about brain patterns. I'm learning about brain frequencies. So again, when I moved back home, I'm reading Eckhart Tolle's Power of Now, and I'm blown away by all this stuff that I read, right?
Yeah.
Self-help books. I read all the self-help books.
Yeah.
But why am I having anxiety then if I read all this? How was I super high functioning in the church?
Yeah.
I'm praising Jesus. I'm doing everything like they say, but I'm still breaking down. And so when I moved back home, my dad was like, "Man, what are you going to do?" Because he saw me having these full-blown panic attacks and throwing up. And I told him, I said, somehow my brain got like this, and somehow I'm going to unget it like this. I told him that. Like, he can remember it specifically. I'm 27. I don't know how. Yeah. I just know, no, I didn't grow up like this. So when I read this thing online, like I did this little survey after my mom saw me one day, she was like, "David, you look depressed." And I was like, "I'm depressed." Here I am resisting again. My mom's a licensed therapist. And so she knows.
Right.
I had this conversation with her like recently. She's like, I knew what you were dealing with. I knew what was going on with you, but I couldn't tell you.
Right. You had to become aware for yourself. Right.
So when she made that statement, when I first moved home, I had went and looked up depression. And when I looked up depression, it had this survey I took, and it was like, "Oh yeah, you got a chemical imbalance in your brain." And I was like, "But how did I get this chemical imbalance in my brain?"
How did they not know that?
They did that of a survey.
Yeah. So
right.
How are they going to tell you have a chemical imbalance from a survey?
Right. So, and that's a whole nother rabbit hole.
Yes, it is.
Again, we should be checking these rabbit holes off. So. Yep. and we'll go down them on certain episodes. We'll bring certain experts in to really go down these rabbit holes. It gives people a different level of understanding outside of what you've been conditioned to believe.
Yep.
So again, this podcast, if you don't want your mind to be blown and taken out of the belief in the programming that you currently have, you probably should just turn it off, and it's okay. You ain't gotta listen to us, you know.
No offense taken.
No offense. So anyway, I read those, and it's talking about depression, and then but I was hell bent, like, no, because again, I knew the power of the mind. You know, from all this stuff, I knew it from the Christian world. Yeah. I knew it from, again, when you listen to Anthony Robbins and you listen to Wayne Dyer, they took stuff from all cultures, and they would take it and they would, you know, present it. And it seemed like everything was connected, because everything is connected.
Yes, it is.
Right? It's not, people think they have a franchise on a thought process. There's nothing new under the sun.
Nope.
Energy, what's the laws of thermodynamics? Energy can never be created or destroyed, only transformed.
Transformed.
Right?
Right.
So everything that you ever see in life was something else.
Yep.
Every thought you've ever had
has already been had. Yep. Absolutely.
No new thought.
Nope.
There's no new nothing.
Nope.
There's just a change of it.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So I was hell bent. I was like, no. And then I was listening to this. I was listening to a podcast, because I was listening to there's a website called Conscious Media Network with Regina Meredith. And Regina Meredith, this was again 2004. Man, she had some people on there that took you even further down the rabbit hole than Wayne Dyer and Anthony Robbins. I mean, it was a lot of conspiracy stuff on there, man. My mind just like all this stuff that people come into contact now. Like literally, I was listening to 2004. So my mind was blown about a lot of things. But she had a gentleman on there by the name of Lee Gerdes. And Lee Gerdes created what's called Brain State Technologies as a company, and a technology called brainwave optimization, which was based on traditional neurofeedback. And so when
what's neurofeedback?
Neurofeedback is a way for the brain to become aware, self-aware, to give feedback to how it's operating in real time and to make changes. So he basically took a brand of neurofeedback and like, he took it to a whole nother level. This guy actually was responsible for creating the algorithms. He worked with a specific company that created the algorithms for Amazon's. Like if you bought this, then we recommend this. That was Lee. Oh wow. That was Lee's company. So you got to think, we're talking about 2004. We're talking about algorithms, and now, I mean, you know, it's nothing for you to hire somebody overseas. You can create some stuff, but back then,
it was rare.
That's rare. And so this guy, he comes in, he had post-traumatic stress from being hit with a bat in San Francisco. And so he was using, again, his story kind of mimics mine. He's on his path trying to find how to get out of post-traumatic stress, and I'm on my path trying to figure out how to do the same. But he's taking the technologies and say there's one technology, and he advances it. So he was out of Scottsdale, Arizona. I went and called my dad. I showed him the podcast, and he listened to it. I listened to it I don't know how many times. And he said, well, the only way we're going to know if it works is if we go out there. So we went out to Arizona. I remember being on the plane like, oh, man, like, I hope this worked. Because you know how hard it was to get on a plane, having anxiety, you know, first of all. Man,
especially to go to a place that you have no idea, you know what to expect. Something brand new like that in 2004. Yeah. You know, that's scary. Yeah. So I guess that kind of gives me some insight to how maybe our clients come in to Inception as well. But I'm so far removed from it. But so we got there, and I remember my dad was like, man, we don't know what this place like. This place probably some little rinky-dink place. So we go there, and like, man, it was an awesome place. I mean, everybody who we met was just so good to us. We saw people coming in on lunch breaks. All white people, first of all. You know, it was no black. We was the only black people coming in there. And there was one black girl who worked there, Furlandy. I remember Furlandy. She was really nice. Well, Furlandy and Brandy, actually. And they were really cool people.
And so I think they were kind of shocked that they even saw us come through the door. Because we don't, again, in 2004, how do you get access to this? They had one web page, literally one page, not a page and different sub pages. No, one page on the front, right? No research.
Right.
I don't care.
Right.
Like if it works and if it's safe, I'm gonna do it. Yeah. People be doing all that. What's the research behind it? I'm like, bro, when you not feeling well, you don't give a shit.
Right. Right.
Will I be harmed? And again, does it work?
Right. You were probably at your wit's end too, ready to try.
Oh no, I was at my wit's end. Yeah. I was at my wit's end. So I did like 3 sessions of brainwave optimization in one day. And those 3 sessions, I remember my dad was like, man, you ain't been like that since you came home from Florida. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, man, you were just, because Lee took us in his office, and I was like making fun of Lee. I was joking around. I was like, so he was shocked that I was doing that. And I was shocked that I wasn't doing that. I had no contrast. I had stayed in that place long enough to not even know if my personality was shining through or anything like that, So, but 3 sessions, my anxiety reduces by 50%. You don't even get that in pharmacology.
Yeah, I mean, that's
you don't get that from taking drugs.
No, you don't.
That type of response.
No, because it dulls you. Drugs dull your senses, It just, you think you feel better, but really it just, it's dulling how you feel.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes it's good. Like, you need to be stabilized, right? I've worked with clients who need to be stabilized.
Yep.
But when you're talking about 5 years later, you're still on the same drug,
Yeah.
Then that's an issue.
Right.
So, but my dad, he went out there for me. The funny thing is, he went out there for me, but he greatly benefited.
So he did it too.
Yeah. He went through it too. And he's someone he's a black man who had been in therapy. So I saw my dad going to therapy. I knew that him and my mom went to therapy. They went to therapy together, and I think they had their own therapy sessions separately.
Yeah.
Dealing with their own childhood stuff.
Right.
So I saw this from probably 96. On. So by the time we went there, he had been in therapy for over 10 years.
Yeah.
Close to it. So he went out there thinking he's going out there just for me because my son, he's dealing with this stuff. Man, I remember that first night I saw him on the couch. I thought he was dead. I literally thought he was dead. He was on the couch knocked out, and I ain't hear nothing, no snore, nothing.
Oh, wow.
I was scared. I was like,
I
went underneath. I went underneath. I was like, is he breathing? I put my finger up his nose, I'm like, oh, he is breathing.
Oh, man.
He was knocked out. So he had only been sleeping 3 or 4 hours a night for years.
Wow. Oh man.
See, but he was conditioned.
Yeah.
He was conditioned when he thought, well, I don't need to sleep. I sleep good at 3-4 hours.
That's when I die.
That's
I'm
all.
Asleep when I die.
That's all I need because you think that somehow that you're special, that you've overcome some physiological need by just what? Because
human
you just
avatar. Right. And we all got the same human avatar. Come on now.
Right. You have the same needs as everybody else.
Yeah.
I can see if you measure and you got 4 hours of REM and deep. That's a wholly different thing.
Right. Exactly.
But
you still need light sleep
that.
too. Right.
So the whole spectrum is what's needed, right?
Yeah.
So he realized he had a sleep issue, but fast forward, I'm fast forwarding all the way to now. Like, no, he just had anxiety too. And what do you think I picked it up from?
Environment.
Yeah, your environment. So I'm thinking my stuff just comes from wherever. I had some traumatic events, but a lot of that was just soft traumas from picking it up in the environment.
Yep.
So anyway, we went down that rabbit hole together. We did our services, and we did about 12 sessions in 4 days. I remember even throwing up on the way home from the plane ride, going to the airport. And the first thing my dad would say was, oh man, that shit ain't work. Like, cause we didn't understand that it was a process.
Whole process.
We thought that, you got that American ideology.
Yeah.
Microwave, put it in a microwave, which is really crazy because when you take pharmaceutical drugs, you're going to take those things for the rest of your life in terms of, if you have a diagnosis of ADD or bipolar or whatever.
Right. They'll be on that for years.
Yeah. So he thought it didn't work, but really it did work.
Process. Just beginning
because
the process.
it jumped me off on my journey where from there we opened our first business. We brought that technology back. We licensed that technology. In 2007 we opened up our first business, which was called Neuro Fitness Center. And man, from that time we just saw so many clients come in. We seen some amazing things with just using one technology. Right? And that technology again helped me to really be where I am today. But of course, Inception, again, we'll talk about that as another point in time, like how that has morphed in something totally different, but that, that level of relaxation I had from doing them sessions, I thought they drugged me.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I thought I was like, how is this possible?
Yeah.
How am I so relaxed? Now let me back up though, because when I was using Jose Silva Alpha Mind training, this was when I was in Florida. I let my boy, I remember one of my boys, we were in a parking lot in the mall, and I had this little Palm Pilot. Right? Palm Pilot, I told you how old I am. And I had Jose Silva on the Palm Pilot. And we were in the parking lot. I said, man, you gotta listen to this. And it's like a guided meditation with a clicking noise in the back that basically helps your brainwave patterns to sync up to the alpha method, to the alpha pattern. And I let multiple people do that, and they literally felt so relaxed.
Really?
And that's when I realized that, wow, I didn't know you can get relaxed from doing something like this, right? But brain state, it was like that, like times 100.
Yeah. I can imagine.
It was a totally different thing. And then too, I didn't even talk about when I went out there, I had my brain map done. Because they do a brain map, they do an initial brain map to see how your brain is functioning. Again, all this stuff I'm talking about is not inside the traditional medical system. None of these people were doctors. They're professionals in their own right. Lee's background was technology. My background is technology. And he got into something to help himself and help his son. And then me and my dad got into it to help myself and for my dad to help his son, but to help himself too.
Right.
It was
same thing.
It was such a mirror story between Lee and his son. And so, like bringing that technology back, people was coming in and experiencing this for the first time. And I mean, from things like stroke, like you would never think like stroke. I had a stroke client who couldn't even walk. Within 7 days of us using our technology with him, he was walking unassisted. We had to literally carry him in the beginning.
Wow.
So, and I consider all that mental health, but it's neurological health. That's a part of it. It's all connected, right?
Everything's connected. Yep.
So we started that, again, 2007 Neuro Fitness Center, and, again, added stuff along the way. But this podcast is really about getting people to understand that your mind body is connected.
Yep.
And again, the kingdom of heaven is inward, right? So all the talk about external wealth and breaking generational patterns or generational programming or generational curses, it's all the same thing, right?
Yeah, it starts within.
My dad, when he went to therapy, before that, he was already breaking that pattern.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And he was doing his own internal work.
Well, your parents were pretty conscious. You said you had the Course of Miracles. Your mom had the Course of Miracles sitting out on the table.
Yeah, she had that.
Little. Yep.
She had that book. She had, a lot of Wayne Dyer books. My dad would tell me a lot of stuff about the Apocrypha and, Egypt and, ancient Egypt. He would tell me a lot of stuff. I mean, the Moors. Man, my parents they really were ahead of their time. And you got to think, who took me out there in 2007 when I wasn't feeling well.
Right.
That was my dad.
Yeah. If
I brought that to him, he could have been like, man, what's this craziness?
I know.
He was like this, really? Let's go.
Right.
He's
Exactly.
like, that's the only way you're going to find out. Let's go.
Yep.
You have to be curious. You have to be curious. And we've lost our ability to just ask questions and to think.
Yeah.
It seems like because we're conditioned. But it seems like now more and more people are like, what's that in that vaccine? Which I ain't taking that.
Yeah.
That's good.
People are becoming more conscious.
You do need to ask questions.
Yes, you do. Yes.
That's how I got there.
Curiosity is everything.
I'm like, again, well, how did I get this chemical imbalance in my brain? I had to ask a question. I had to go against the norm.
Yeah. Right.
And so, again, when we talk about what we're doing, we're helping people to go against the norm. And
well, what is norm? Yeah, I mean, what we've been conditioned to believe is
your norm. Well, your norm is, just like I said, I didn't know what stress is.
Right.
So again, let's break that down. When I went there and I did the brain map, they broke down the brain map to me and they let me know, like, oh wow, you're in freeze. And I was like, what's that? I said freeze response is when you have a sense of helplessness against an event, and your brain naturally will go into that pattern to one, it prepares you for death, to die. Two,
you disassociate.
Disassociation prepares you to immobilize, which is, again, freeze up, possum, numb you out. Like if you have a car accident, you're going into a fight. You're going into a freeze response.
Freeze, yeah, because you can't feel that pain. Your body.
Molestations as a kid, you're going to freeze. Right. I mean, listen, you can have just been at the grocery store and you got lost by your mom. You were lost for a moment.
Right.
Sense of helplessness. Right?
Freeze.
You're gonna go into freeze, right?
Doesn't matter, big, small.
It is no such thing as big, small, right?
Nope.
It's just, it is what it is. Whatever your brain perceives as trauma, it doesn't say, well, this is a big trauma.
Right, and this is a small trauma, and it doesn't work like that.
It don't work like that. No. And so when people try to always compare, like, well, you didn't go what I went through. You ever heard that when you were younger?
Man.
Like, I had it worse than you.
Yeah.
Like, why are you tripping?
Right. Why are you so messed up? I was so much worse off than you were. But the body, that's not how the body works.
The brain don't say, well, let me see your trauma. Let me measure that up. Like, oh, you know where you're right.
Worse than the other trauma. Okay.
Right.
No.
So I saw my brain pattern and I was in freeze, and I saw my brain pattern shift out of freeze too, which was great. But when I saw that brain pattern, start to realize, like, everybody is going through this. It's not abnormal.
Well, I mean,
we live in an abnormal society, and have normal reactions to the abnormalcy.
Exactly. I mean, 95% of people are walking around in fight or flight right now in America. So, I mean.
Yeah. And so then you can go down a rabbit hole again. We're talking about inner wealth, right? So when you think about external wealth, you can go get all the external wealth you want. But if your nervous system is dysregulated, if you have poor programming, don't think that you're passing down generational wealth when you have not taken care of the internal.
Exactly.
Because what you're going to pass down is more generational trauma. And generational programming.
Yep. Exactly. Because you can have all the money in the world. You can have the best cars in the world. You can have everything that's perceived to be, wow, they're so successful. But really, what is success? It's feeling good on the inside, right? Yeah. Feeling good about the things that you have. I mean, you could have a homeless person on the street, happiest person ever, compared to a billionaire, and they're so unhappy. They can't get enough.
Well, you see it all the time. So
who's really successful? Yeah.
You see it all the time in just in Hollywood.
Yep.
People killing themselves. Like, why? We always wonder why that person hurt themselves.
How would they do that?
Why would they do that?
Yeah. Why?
Because people don't understand stress and they don't understand trauma.
Exactly.
That's why. Well, they got money and their situation is better than mine.
Yeah, right. Doesn't.
It's like, no, but their brain is reacting to their level of overwhelm.
Exactly.
And trust me, like, they have a level of overwhelm when you're in a spotlight like that.
Oh yeah.
And people coming against you constantly. You're gonna experience some some pain and some suffering. Your brain is going to respond to those things, even though we externally sit back and think is this situation of being oh so great and oh so amazing.
Right.
So 2008, this is after we started Neural Fitness Center. Mm-hmm. Had worked with a bunch of clients, and then Lee came, he flew into Michigan, and he was like, man, he's like, I got this guy coming into Vancouver. He's looking to invest into his company. Mm-hmm. And he is like, but I don't feel too confident about the person who's out there who's going to train him, going to train his brain. Mm-hmm. He's like, he said his words, how can I bribe you to go out there? Because he told my dad in training class, he said, man, he ever told my dad, whenever you get tired of David, I would love to work with him. Send him to work with me. You know what I said? I said, nah, I'm building my own thing.
Yeah. Entrepreneur, at heart.
But so when he flew in, he told me he knew how I was. He knew I was very astute and very good with working with clients. Yeah. And so he bribed me. He basically said, well, I'm going to pay you. And he paid me to fly out there. And I work with a billionaire and his wife, well-known billionaire. I can't even say his name. And I would say, though, very nice people from just first glance and meeting them. But they were dealing with some situations that I would not want to exchange their money for. So that idea that because you have a lot of money, but you don't sleep at night.
Exactly. And how did their brain map look?
Oh, they were dealing with addiction for one. One of them was. So yeah, no, I wouldn't trade that. And so again, you got these people who are quote unquote stars, whatever that means, but you don't even have control over I don't want to say control, but you don't even have a regulated nervous system. Right. And people don't even understand what that means and why that's important.
Exactly. I know.
To have a regulated nervous system.
Right. I know.
So I'll break it down what that means to have a regulated nervous system in just very simplistic terms. And everybody should know this. Everybody should know their brain pattern. Yeah. They should know that the pattern that they go into when there's a lack of safety in the environment, right? Yep. So when there's a threat or stressor in the environment, your brain is going to naturally again go into an instinctual response to protect you from that said threat. Yep. Whether real or imagined, perceived. It's all perception. All perception. Yep. So whether real, imagined, or perceived, your brain is going to go into those patterns.
Stress response.
That is the stress response, which I did not know when I was 21. David, you look stressed. I'm not stressed. Because when we hear the word stress, we think of something outside of us. Right. Oh, my boyfriend, my girlfriend.
I just got in a breakup
those are stressful situations.
They're stressors.
Yeah, stressors. Yes. That's not the stress response.
No,
that's
not.
Now internalized in your body.
The stress response happens in here.
Right. Yeah. So if you have something traumatic happen or just chronic stress, well, what happens? Your brain is going to go into fight, flight, freeze, adrenaline, cortisol, all that's going to amp up. Yep. Your blood pressure is going to heighten. Pupil is going to dilate.
Your brain changes. The blood in your brain, blood vessels constrict in certain areas of your brain and rush to other areas to be able to activate different parts of your body and think differently, literally.
Right. So scientific. you got that going on. Yeah. And your prefrontal cortex is shutting down. Not all the way.
Logical thinking.
Not all the way, but enough where you don't have the ability to really to rationally think.
Exactly.
To critically think.
No, exactly.
So if you're stuck in this pattern and your resources, let's go back. Immunity is shut down. Yep. It's drastically reduced. Right. Digestion. Yeah. Gut. Drastically
reduced.
The
blood from your visceral organs, it goes to your peripheral. Because that you got to get up and fight and run. So more power.
So people think that after they go through those events that the body just regulates on its own. And the body does regulate on its own if specific things are happening after. Yep. Animal gets chased by a gazelle. Say lion chases a gazelle. Gazelle gets away. Gazelle discharges, shakes.
Tremors.
Tremors. 1, Two, the animals on the grass. First of all, they're grounded, and they discharge the energy out their body, and they go 100 yards up, and they eat grass like the event never happened.
Exactly, because wild animals don't have PTSD. They don't hold anything in their body because they shake it out.
Right,
they shake the trauma out after.
So they discharged it, but what do? That energy is all stored within the body.
We're okay.
But not just that. I grew up. My mama said, Dave, you didn't grow up in the hood. And I told her, well, I just didn't grow up in your hood. Because if I know about going to Kentucky Fried Chicken and they got bulletproof revolving door just for the drive-through,
right?
What is that telling you? There's lack of safety.
Right.
If I go to the movie theaters and they like have metal detectors.
Right.
I said, Ma, I just didn't grow up in your hood. Like she, it was drug dealers in the hood who was
her perception, right?
Getting killed, whatever, but or killing people, but we had a drug dealer live across the street. He was the cool guy. He moved into the neighborhood because that was like, oh, this is a better place to be once you got some money, right? But we all knew he was a drug dealer.
Yeah.
Even when the feds came and took all the stuff.
Oh man.
So anyway, that trigger warning for you. So anyway, my environment, it was safe enough. But there were still some things letting you know, as a black boy, you're not safe.
Yeah.
Right? So those are chronic soft traumas.
Yep. Right.
So when we talking about the gazelle, that was a hard trauma, shock trauma. Get away done.
Right.
But when you live in an environment where it's chronic trauma, chronic stress, that's a whole nother ball game.
Yeah.
And so again, when we talk about the dysregulated nervous system, your money will not regulate your nervous system. No. But you will try to regulate your nervous system
with your money. Yep.
Let me go buy a way to self-soothe.
Right. Exactly. It's always about self-soothing. Try what can I reach for outside of myself to make myself feel better? But that's
what's some of the ways that you think that people self-soothe?
Oh man, let's see: sex, shopping, drugs.
So you're saying retail therapy is not good?
Oh man, I love retail therapy, but it's not good to regulate your nervous system though. That's not gonna work. It's not gonna work.
And so if your nervous system is regulated, then you even ask yourself, I would say this, when I brain trained and I came back after those 12 sessions, I sat at the desk and I literally, I don't know why, but I was looking for my desire for wanting a new car and it wasn't present. I could not find it.
Wow.
And in that moment, I realized I didn't want a new car. I wanted to feel better about myself.
Yeah.
I wanted to regulate.
Yeah.
And I couldn't regulate. So that's when I started to understand, man, capitalism, consumerism, your mental health is in direct relation to your purchasing habits.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And the worse you are mentally, emotionally, the better consumer you are.
Oh yeah.
I literally had people that 60% of people who bought Groupons for our location wouldn't redeem them.
Wow.
Because you're conditioned about the fear of loss.
Right.
Oh, sale, I better get it now.
Right.
And then you wouldn't even use it.
Right.
Because you're overwhelmed, because guess what? You didn't just buy one. You bought 10 of them. Right? Just because the deal.
Right.
And so now you're using the deal seeking as a means to self-soothe.
Yeah. Right.
Same thing with, like you said, sex. Now, out of the top 10 websites in the world, 3 of those are porn.
Yeah.
So we talk about stimulus porn. I call it stimulus porn, where we're now, so people will be thinking about this, the porn addicts, but okay, out of those top 10 sites, 3 of them were porn. What's the other 7? Social media.
Yeah.
Google.
Right. Amazon.
Oh, you're doing the same thing. Don't judge.
Everything is self-soothe.
Don't judge. You're doing the same thing. You're self-soothing. Eating.
Yep. That's a big one.
Eating is probably the biggest. Well, I think honestly, I think the digital stimulus has taken over eating.
Yeah.
But for a long time, eating, because you remember we went to that obese stage. It was like everybody was like obese. Like And they pump that cars real big, house real big, everything real big, supersize me.
Well,
everything
it's still like that in America. I mean,
everything is huge portions.
Yeah,
give me more.
There's more obese people in this country than there are in shape people. So that tell you something.
Yeah. Well, I guess because I'm not out and about as I used to be, but
it's bad. It's bad.
Yeah, and all that is self-soothing. But people would think it's the sugar. The sugar didn't just jump into your body.
Right. Right.
The food don't just jump into your body.
No.
Oh, this is addiction. Go look at Gabor Mate. Dr. Gabor Mate.
It's all mental health, man.
He talks about this. All addiction stems from trauma.
Yes, absolutely. Right. Absolutely. How could it not?
Yeah.
How could it not?
You're trying to feel better.
Exactly. Always through something. You're grabbing for something to feel better. Something.
And that's it. And it's so simple. The unsimple part, the non-simple part, is all the patterns that was created in the self-soothing.
Right.
That you have to unravel.
Exactly.
But the root cause still remains very simple.
Yep.
Your mom, your dad, poor programming, the trauma you experience in your life, the dysregulated nervous system.
Yep.
Right? The inflammation within your body.
Right.
The poor drinking water.
Right.
The poor air quality.
Toxicity is a huge one. Huge one. Yeah.
So we got very toxic human beings.
Yes.
Right?
Dysregulated, toxic human beings.
But guess what? Who wants to be a millionaire? Because they programmed you to think that once I become the millionaire, then I'm going to feel better.
Right.
You're not.
No. Striving mentality. You'll never be happy.
I think the number is over. We need to pull this up. We need to pull this data up. But the number is over 50% of people who win lotteries go bankrupt within 5 years.
Oh, yeah.
Because you weren't conditioned to handle money.
Right.
You won something. And again,
you still have the same habits. You're not going to automatically change because, because you got some money now. No, it's just going to make you more of who you are.
Right. Yeah. Yep. So when we talk about the inner wealth, man, listen. I don't need none of that stuff to feel better.
Nope.
That's because I've been doing my work.
Yeah.
And it took me years.
Right.
And I'm still doing stuff.
Yep.
Because I know, to be honest with you, it's like, why wouldn't you spend majority on your money on, Altered Carbon is a really good show. And they call these bodies sleeves.
Sleeves, right.
Like, why wouldn't you spend the money on upgrading the sleeve?
Sleeve, right.
Not just physically, because we want to upgrade the shit.
Yep.
Physically, let me get the bigger booty. Let me let me get the bigger biceps. It's like, bro, that ain't.
That's not everything.
That ain't it.
That's not everything. It's partial.
That's partial. But even that's still conditioned.
Yep, it is. Yes, it is. And people don't even know that there's more than that.
That's still conditioned. Go look at us. We weren't walking around looking like The Rock.
Right.
Like with low body fat percentage, girls losing their periods, low body fat percentage, and adrenal fatigue.
It's too much because it's too much.
Overdoing it. Right.
There's no balance.
Yeah.
The balance is gone. Because the nervous systems are dysregulated. They're trying to regulate somehow, some way.
And the body is doing all it can to keep you alive.
Yep.
But it can't do that with zero help.
Right.
Zero support.
Right.
People think about, they hear the word therapy and they're turned off by it. Man, have you been bamboozled? That's what I learned that word on Malcolm X back in the day. You've been bamboozled. You've been hoodwinked. Because you think that therapy, something's wrong with therapy. Go back into the 90s. Everybody was hard. You hard.
Oh, right.
Right. No, you're weak.
Yeah.
You're weak because your emotions are stuck.
Right.
You're dysregulated.
You're reactive.
You're overreactive. You're overreactive or underreactive.
Exactly. Yep.
Freeze, underreactivity.
Right.
And when you're in freeze, you want to feel because you're frozen, you're disassociated, you're numbed out. That's why you get people who cut themselves. They're in freeze. They want to feel. So those people take drugs that go up.
Right.
Or they don't want to feel anything and they want to stay frozen, so they take drugs to stay down.
Right.
So people who want fight or flight. Oh man, I'm so amped. I just need to go to the bar and have a what?
Right.
Have a drink.
Exactly.
Why? Because what you trying to do?
Regulate your nervous system. Bring it down.
Like, I'm just trying to self-soothe.
Yep.
So when I go to the bar, you want a drink? No, I'm already soothed.
Right.
I'm good.
Right.
So if I do have a drink, I know it's purely just for social reasons.
Yep. Exactly.
Not because I need to feel better about myself.
Right.
You know? Yep. And that's again, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about
right.
That's right there.
Being able to regulate your nervous system yourself, you know, without anything outside of you.
And understanding that, man, there's stuff in your environment that's like literally
killing you, making you a zombie, making you not who you are. Yeah. Think differently, want things that you don't really actually want. I mean, this is all real stuff. Yeah. Real stuff.
So when you talk about influencers, I'm like, well, what are they influencing you to do? Right. They're influencing you to self-soothe.
Yeah, by
taking because this, they're showing you
doing this.
They're showing you, look, listen, if you just go get that big ass, you can get these million followers.
You feel better.
You know, go to you know, the thing is these trips. Like I can go somewhere and be like, all right, I'm ready to go home. Like I'm ready to get back into my routine.
Yeah.
Like a lot of these people, they have wanderlust, and wanderlust ain't nothing but trauma.
Man, you just running away.
Just running.
You running away from yourself.
It don't mean that you can't take trips.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you can't take trips. We like to go experience things, but when you just always trying to escape.
Yeah.
Like what? Look, you know, Wizard of Oz. Black people, we watch The Wiz with Michael Jackson. You know, like those movies. If you watch those movies, they always said there's no place like home. But at the end of the movie, they all learned that home was always on the inside of you. Because where are your emotions created?
Man, within you. You never feel anything outside of yourself. Remember that.
Yo, that right Remember there, that. When I tell that to people, that's probably one of the most eye-opening things for people to hear. It's like, you know, your emotions were all inside you. You know, your brain made every single thing.
All of those feelings. All of those feelings.
So if somebody pulled up and gave you a Bentley truck, oh my God, you feel so good. Well, where did the feeling come from? It came from the Bentley truck. No.
It came from your brain.
No.
Came from your brain and your body.
So once you understand that, then I can feel like I got a Bentley truck every day.
Oh yeah.
That feeling, you can create that feeling
yourself, right?
But you can't recreate that feeling with no space.
No space and no awareness that you can even do that. Right.
You can't create that feeling with a high level of toxicity.
Right.
You know, I'm still tapping in and being able to, because I want to be able to just close my eyes.
And
feel the feelings. And I started noticing I was able to start feeling gratitude more. Because, you know, I read books, you know, I used to all these, you know, they commercialize everything, first of all. But it's like, oh, feel gratitude. Read this book to learn to feel gratitude.
Man,
and it's like we had to do that. We had to read a book to learn how to feel. But, okay, good. A lot of those books are helpful. Just to give you a cue. And I read some books that helped me to kind of like write things down. And that's the first start.
True gratitude will make you cry.
Yo, I mean, I was in a float tank one time sobbing.
Yeah.
From gratitude.
Yep.
And I got one powerful thought from that float tank, which said, unexpressed gratitude turns into grief. And when you don't express your emotions, good or bad, and even though your emotions, I mean, when we're talking about your emotions aren't good or bad.
They just are.
They just are what they are, you know. But just to label it, experience all of it. Become congruent with the good side of you and the bad side of you. Yeah, I don't care what anybody ever say about me. You can bring up all the stuff about me all you want. Yo, I'm human. I done messed up in life.
Exactly. Nobody's perfect.
I'm going to continue messing up in life.
Absolutely. That's how you learn.
But that's how I learn. That's how you learn.
Exactly.
Anybody I've ever hurt in life, like I'm sorry. I did not intentionally or consciously try to hurt you.
Right.
And the people who've hurt me in life, I forgive you because I know you weren't intentionally or consciously trying to hurt me. It's all about
their level of awareness. Exactly. People only act out in their level of awareness.
What's the brain? How much is the brain conscious versus unconscious?
Conscious brain is 5% compared to 95% unconscious. The subconscious is 1 million times more powerful than the conscious mind. 1 million times more powerful.
And we live in what? Unconsciousness, right?
Unconsciousness. So
if you're living in unconsciousness, those people didn't hurt you out of consciousness.
No.
That's one thing that's so hard for people to hear. Your mom, your dad, they did the best they could.
They knew how to do. They did the best.
With their level of awareness.
Yes, right.
When you know better, what they say?
You do better. You have to do better when you know better.
So inner wealth is about the knowing better.
Yeah.
But having the ability to do better.
Yep.
And from that, we're going to end on that note for our first podcast, because knowing better is not just, that's half the battle. Being able to self-correct and do better is the 100%.
Yep.
So next podcast, we're gonna go further down a rabbit hole and learn how my co-host here got on her journey to inner wealth. All right, guys. Till next time.
Yep.
What up? Peace out.